Hello. I think I heard one of the most scary things ever on a dating show just now. A woman who is a single mother, her daughter is grown, 26 years old. She has not had a very serious relationship ever, and that's not what's scary. She said that she's never been no one's ever looked her in the eye and said I love you, which that's quite heartbreaking, you know, when that's something you want. And I think she was in her late 40s, maybe early 50s. And there's a lot of reasons why people tend to pick people who are unavailable or discard them. I definitely have been in some situations that weren't good, but I definitely have been with people who genuinely loved me, and I've had that experience, and it's great. However, let me just say, this woman said how I will know that I'm with the right person is that they will look in my eyes and tell me that they love me. Oh God, that's not true. I mean, in some cases, yeah, sure. But love can be fleeting, and most people who have been in significant relationships know that love moves and changes, and sometimes you feel very in love with a person and sometimes you're not, and it's a fluid thing. But when something is truly working, like love and someone saying I love you, and words need to match with, there's just so much to it. And I feel like this person is going to get, some not so good surprises because of that mindset. Because she thinks that someone saying that, looking her in the eyes and saying that, people look you in the eyes and say that for all kinds of reasons. Oh God, punk rock is getting in the way. I'm taking this off. Yeah. All right. So, what I want to say about this is that in order for a lasting, true love relationship, love is not enough at all. There are several things that need to align in order for something to be lasting. And even when these things align, people can change and things can unravel and people drift apart. And I do think that a really great long-term or even a couple of year relationship that doesn't mean that it's unsuccessful. Maybe it was successful for a while. And I believe that if you what's called consciously uncouple or have an amicable ending to your relationship, it's probably pretty successful in a lot of ways. But the danger around thinking that love is enough, or that someone telling you that they love you is enough, is this. The areas in which you need to align are vast. And being in love is only one small part of that. And I do believe in love at first sight, with the caveat, which is this. Love at first sight means that you had strong chemistry with someone, and then you had all the other things that aligned by chance. You lucked out, in other words. Because to me, what I believe, and especially after doing disgusting amounts of research on the subject, there's a great book called, it's Beverly De Angelis is the author, and it's called Are You the One for Me? And it talks about kind of like these 9 points of alignment, and really where things can fall apart. And there are several things that people may not even expect to read about or think about, and people who have been through it know it so well. A couple of the points being like stepchildren, or a parent outside of the relationship that gets in the way, or parents getting in the way, or like really enmeshed relationships getting in the way of the primary relationship. There's all kinds of things that can be what she calls relationship time bombs. So let me just kind of go back a little bit in that the number one stage kind of in commitment is, well, commitments, once you get to commitment, because someone can even say they love you and you don't even have a commitment. And it can be for a reason, because they're in the throes of drug chemicals going off in your brain that are there in the beginning. And you might not even be in a relationship with them, or a commitment. But a lot of times, someone will say, I love you, and then a commitment may come soon after. So, okay, so let's say we start with connection and chemistry, then we get to commitment. So we've gone through these 3 stages that are very important, because you've had this mutual like for each other, and then, possibly love and commitment. And then the big one comes in, which is being compatible. And being compatible is a whole other ball game, and that doesn't mean there's what people, a lot of times, people who hear this and have been in a really great long-term relationship will know exactly what I'm saying here, which is compatibility does not mean you like the same movies. That might be a small part of things. It is this way of being with each other, in having a understanding and accepting of that other person as they are. Being compatible, that comes down to the day-to-day and how you get along in the day-to-day. And because it's a major challenge when you live with someone to like, if you can accept stuff like whether somebody is really messy and you're a neat freak. Now that can be a real problem sometimes. It's been a problem for me in the past. I'm the neat freak, if you couldn't tell. And I'm not. Now I can take a little bit of somebody who's a bit of a mess. It just depends on how far it goes. And but here's the thing, like, not only that, like, life path. Where are you guys going? Are you guys going in the same direction? Because or is there an adaptability in one partner that can really be like, maybe somebody's like, in the future, I really want to live in an RV and travel the world, or I just want to live a very simple life. And this other person is very attached to city life. That is not compatible. But sometimes somebody will be like, wow, I'd really like to try living a completely different lifestyle, and I feel like taking that leap with you, and I maybe they have some experience around it and they can see themselves doing that instead of living in the city. So they have this adaptability that they can work with that, right? Whereas if you really value living in an upscale apartment and having, the finest clothing and a fancy car and all of these things, and somebody who just wants to live a rugged life out in the woods, it's going to be really tough to overcome that. And that's almost small compared to examples like how you see raising children, if that's something you want in your life. Or what if, here's a big one for me, like this has been a problem, especially with, I have dated younger men, and a lot of times they want to, you have to make sure they don't want a family, because I don't want that. I've never been somebody who gravitated toward that. And now I'm at an age where that's not even possible unless I adopt, and I'm really not into that. Now, if somebody's already a parent and they're a great parent and they've got it worked out and they have a great relationship, co-parenting relationship with the other person, that's a possibility for me. That's fine. I need somebody who's already had their kids, or somebody who just doesn't want that at all. And I would prefer somebody who doesn't want that at all. So look at all of these components and why love is not enough. I mean, this woman is, like I said, she's in her late 40s, early 50s, something like that. So she'd probably, I imagine she'd probably get it pretty, I hope she would get it pretty fast, that, it just because someone looks in your eyes and says they love you does not mean that that's the end all. I have loved, I feel like I've been, like, some people feel like, they say stuff like, you can only be in love a few times in your life. Bullshit! That's what I say to that. I've very much loved more than a few times, and yeah, and it's a great feeling. It's so beautiful when it comes in, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be a lasting thing. And you have to find in somebody who really sits in you can really settle on and build with, and that wants that same thing that you do, and not only wants it but embodies that, and you can go forward and choose each other on a daily basis, and that you can check in with, and that you already see where you fit into each other's lives in a real way. And I want to talk now about couples, because here's the thing. We all know the divorce rate is extremely high, right? But not only that, how many actual happy relationships and marriages are there? There are a lot of marriages that I know of that aren't happy. There have been relationships that I thought were pretty good and turned out not to be. And I think we've all seen that before. We people give the whole impression, and I'm not saying that, maybe this relationship was this way at one time. But I do know of some relationships that are the real deal. they're the real deal. So one of them is what I would say love at first sight that lucked out, and that is my cousin's relationship. One of my cousins. I have two cousins that I think are in really great relationships. The first one, they have been together over 20 years. And their relationship is like it's always been in the honeymoon stage, which I think can be achieved with the right kind of energy and action. And if you want to know more about that, I will go ahead and link Esther Perel down below because she is an expert on this stuff. She has books out. She has a book called Mating in Captivity. She talks about how to keep your relationship in a space of desire. Because romantic love can be fleeting if we don't know how to keep it alive. Now, with my cousin and her husband, I see how they've kept novelty alive. It's amazing. They do things apart. They do things together. They have separate interests. They have interests together. They do adventurous things. They have a very novel relationship. When they met, it was fire. It's fire now. They flirt like teenagers. And they also have a very close friendship. She calls him buddy sometimes. They also have some funny jokes, funny things that they've added into their relationship over the years. And it's quite amazing. I love it. I love watching them together. It's such a great example of love. And my best friend from college and her husband started out pretty hot as well. I've seen them go through extremely hard things together. And even times where they were not sure if it was going to go to keep going. And so here was the thing though, as a team, this is what you need to make a relationship work. You need a teammate. You need a serious teammate who doesn't just give up at the first sign or maybe even the second sign of shit, there's some stuff that we need to work on here. They go to work with you. You both get in there, you get your hands dirty, and there is a chance it's not going to work on the other side, but because they went in there and did the work and went to counseling, it's fine. Came out on the other side better than ever. Got tools to work on things. They still have that twinkle, that affinity for each other. They still flirt. Over 20 years later, same thing as my cousin. My dad's best friend and his wife, they were together for, his wife recently passed, unfortunately. They've been in my life since I was little. But what a beautiful relationship. The best of friends. Always there for each other, always looking out for each other. Just really, really compatible people who had a beautiful, probably over 40-year marriage. My aunt and uncle were together for 50 years until his death in January. They had kids. She described it as an absolute beautiful soulmate relationship. I think they had years that were extremely hard. Two of their children passed. The youngest passed 10 years ago. And my oldest cousin, passed in January. And my uncle passed a month to the day later. It's a very difficult thing to go through. But I think, their family, they have a big family, very, very, all of them are very close-knit. It's very close-knit, beautiful family. So I'm just saying that they had 50 years of soulmate love, and I think it's a testament to they wanted the same things, I have a friend, that he and his wife have been together for several years, and they're just such a great fit, and they kind of ended up having a kid a little later in life. They didn't expect to do that, but they're great parents. Oh, their kid's so great, and they've been through stuff, but man, they are just each other's favorite person, and they work to keep that together. So, what I'm saying is, love is not enough. It's a jumping off point. And then two people have to continue to choose each other and grow together and want the same basic things to begin with in order to start that journey. Now that journey can change. You can move through life together, and sometimes things pull apart. And again, I will say, I don't think that means that the relationship wasn't successful if you had even a great year with somebody. And in fact, I've had a couple of relationships that I think were very successful, even though they didn't last. Because we got along really well, but then at some point we realized that we just weren't gonna go the distance, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't successful. Because we learned a lot, we had a beautiful love while it lasted, and now we are free to find someone else that will be compatible with us. And I think that's awesome. So I don't know what your thoughts are. I just want to say that I understand that the feeling of being in love in the honeymoon period is intoxicating and beautiful, and that I do think that it can, last. It is going to evolve. It's not going to be exactly the same. God, you want it to evolve, because you want it to evolve into that level of complete comfort and beauty and consistency, the consistency that's there and the reliability that's there, And I don't think you can expect your partner to be everything to you. You need an outside life and things like that. But I do understand how absolutely intoxicating and wonderful the beginning is. But if it lasts past that, it's going to be that, that love at first sight thing is going to be because you also had none of these relationships that I'm talking about would have lasted without that compatibility and that similar values and life path element. Now, we can all like some of the same things. Well, I love the same movies, and I like the... Okay, well, I will say that's kind of important to have some overlap there, because especially if you're, you want some overlap in those areas. But that's not what makes a true connection. I mean, some of my friends don't even, are not into the same music that I'm into or the movies that I'm into, Um, but our connection is extremely deep, and I have had boyfriends too where, it's like, well, it's something so far beyond that, you know? Um, so I hope this makes sense where I'm trying what I'm trying to convey to you is that, you know, there's a lot of steps to it, and you need a good teammate, and you need a good foundation. You need a friend, and you need somebody that you're attracted to. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. And I will go ahead and link that Beverly De Angelis book in the show notes, because I think it's great if you want to look at that, because I think it's a really good guide on compatibility and where these time bombs can be in a relationship. Yeah. So anyway, I will see you next time. Go ahead, if you like this content, please go ahead and comment in below, and like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. It helps get this information out to others, that I really value getting this out to you, and sharing my experience as I go down the road to finding a good relationship, and helping you through sharing some of my own experiences. All right. Have a good one. Bye.